Greetings, Yak Watchers! I'm going to start today's video with a question, and that's, what exactly is a bad, in inverted commas, game? In the 6 years or so of my channel's existence, it's fair to say I've got through my fair share of what the general public might call bad games. But aside from the entertainment of me ranting over the top of a terribly coded game, there is another reason why I choose to do videos on things like Bridget or the Galactic Plague. I have something of a soft spot for them. Yes, there you go, I said it. I like those old white label Amsoft games. I wouldn't go so far as to say that I love them, but they have a certain simplicity. You play the game once or twice and you know exactly what you're doing. You don't have to play for hours on end just to grasp the general concept of things. And perhaps most importantly for those games is, a lot of them were coded by one bloke in his bedroom. Although I'm not sure how many people worked for Indiscomp. I guess it was only a handful. But when assessing a game, you always have to factor this in. And of course, I've been guilty of not doing this in the past because I just go and say, "Oh, this game's terrible, just to get a quick laugh." And so do hundreds of other YouTubers out there. Hey, don't knock it. People like it. Heck, it's probably the reason you're here right now. I don't usually offer a 100% genuine opinion on a game because I'm behind the character of Harry Yag. What would he think of this game? Well, that's not quite true, because Harry Yak is just a facade, so I can get away with some silly comments and make tasteless jokes. But today, I announce my successful return to the world of serious game reviewing. Please stop laughing at the back there. Stop it. You swines. All the way back in June 2012, I featured on my channel a demo by the name of Milk of Ultraviolet by Rail Slave Games. Now, wouldn't you like to know how they're doing today? Well, fantastically as it happens, they've had a grand total of 3 games on Steam, which is, if you ask me, one heck of an achievement. To go from that simplistic demo to a full-on game dev studio in the space of 3 years is nothing short of remarkable. As it happens, the Milk of Ultraviolet has a long and perhaps not so distinguished history. It started off with that demo and then morphed into some sort of top-down RPG. But then, disaster struck! The dev's computer crashed. He lost all of his files and had to start again. But that did not deter him. He came back stronger than ever and produced the all-new NPPD Rush, the Milk of Ultraviolet. Apart from the glitchy Amstrad CPC flashy screen aesthetic, not much else survived from that original demo. The reason I never made a video about that game was because it was too hard for me. I couldn't complete it. I just kept dying and dying and dying, and I'm the sort of guy who likes the more sedate, cerebral, slow games that give you time to think, that you're not rushed all the time. That said, I do like myself a good shoot 'em up every now and again, or a fast and furious beat 'em up. But in general, I'm a fan of those exploration type games where I can just sit back and lose a couple of hours, while the time away on a rainy afternoon. And hence, NPPD Rush, well, it's there in the title, it's too much of a rush for me. That's not to say I can't see the merits of NPPD Rush. And I'll probably do a video on this, maybe a stream or something, to fill you in a little bit more on that, but that's just a little bit of the dev's backstory for you. Today, we're here to look at Snowflake Tattoo, Rail Slave Games' fantastically named title, which was released on Steam in the last couple of months. This is a prequel to NPPD Rush the milk of ultraviolet, and hence it's rather similar in its top-down view style. However, as you can see, the aesthetics are completely different. They look like something Jeff Minter might have scribbled on his chalkboard. And you know what? I absolutely love it. Aesthetically, this game knows exactly how to push my buttons. Well, being a teletext artist, you become conditioned to this white on black aesthetic, but I personally find this very beautiful indeed. I can't quite explain why. I think it's the black background sends you into a trance. I believe I read a piece of research that says that white on black is far more effective than black on white, and I guess that rings true in my case. When you combine these visuals with a pulsating, atmospheric soundtrack by the developer himself and F. Tyler, you have a match that's made in heaven for the humble Harold Rutherfordiak. Now, how could I not love this? The first time I saw it, my jaw hit the floor. It was magnificent. I think what hit me the most about it was the departure from the original MPPD Rush aesthetic, where it was very in your face and everything was happening all at once. It threw everything at you in the first 2 minutes, and then your head exploded or something. With this, a lot of that background noise has been stripped out, leaving you with just the player character, the enemies and the walls, and it's very Atari, very, dare I say, Amstrad CPC in that sense. Indeed, that's what the author was going for. He constantly talks about those Amstrad CPC games and how they were very simplistic, but you could sit there for hours thinking to yourself, how the heck am I going to beat this game? I'm not going to let a piece of code beat me. So you just sit there and play it over and over and over again until suddenly it clicks. One thing those old Amstrad games never had was such an expansive story as this, however. Railslave has built up this whole 1980X glitchpunk universe that NPPD, Snowflake, and to a certain extent his other games tap into. Since Snowflake is a prequel, it's set before NPPD Rush. In this sense, it's a little bit of a catch-22. What do you do first? Do you play the prequel first, or the sequel first? Certainly the sequel was released before the prequel, which confuses you to some extent. You can play them in any order you like, because they both explain what's going on, well, to an extent that you need to. You find out more as the game goes on. With Snowflake Tattoo, you're thrown into the game, and most of the story is told to you via this flashing text at the bottom, which you can choose to read or completely ignore. It's up to you. You can treat the game as just a game and ignore the story if you're not that sort of person, you don't like reading, or you can treat it as some sort of interactive novel. It's completely up to you. To summarize it, the NPPD universe is this futuristic RoboCop, Megacity 1, Blade Runner style place, this retro future with teletext and BBC micro aesthetics all over the place. In NPPD Rush, you play as something called a socket, which is a body salvaged from the wreckage, and then fused onto a high-powered motorcycle. Ha! Brilliant. In Snowflake Tattoo, as in NPPD Rush, you play the part of this socket. But, in a strange paradoxical twist of fate, you also play as a sniper, trying to shoot yourself down, which raises some interesting questions. What do? Do you use your plasma bullets to shoot down yourself or the enemies? Indeed, it's far easier if you don't use the plasma. There's a massive tip, ladies and gentlemen, or at least I've not yet mastered it. In any case, I didn't need the plasma to finish the game. In most cases it does more harm than it does good, and it's just an extra game mechanic, once again, that you can choose to use if you wish, but you don't necessarily need to. Choices. Just in case you've not read the cardboard insert for this game, the idea is that you ride around collecting these dolls, known as doll steak in reference to the Nirvana lyrics, I presume. and then hunt down a warp point that moves you on to the next level. In between stages, you get to visit the shop, where you can buy more health or buy more luck, so you get more item drops. In the levels themselves, you also collect salvage, which you can use to buy various things. You're expecting me to say, oh, you can use this if you like, or you can ignore it. Well, I do recommend you use it. However, there is one thing that is out to take all of your dolls away from you. And that is the dreaded space shooter avoiding thingy. Yes, once you've been to the shop, you're chucked straight into the planet's atmosphere, flying through space. And you've got to avoid these drug-crazed doll things. Each time one of these hits you, you lose a doll. The more you avoid, the more chance you have of completing the game. And indeed, your final score is determined on how many of these dolls that you save. Then, all of a sudden, the space bit is over, and you're cast back to Earth. Whereupon you must do the same all over again for however many levels there are in this game. I do know, but I'm not going to tell you, because that would be a spoiler. What do you think I am? Some sort of YouTube reviewer or something? I will say the game is pretty short, however, so if you're a little bit on the fence about buying the game, I suggest you wait for the next Steam sale to come along, but I do recommend you go and buy it. I'm personally a big supporter and a big fan of bedroom coders. If it weren't for them, we'd be completely controlled by the corporations, and what they decide is a good game. We'd have 100 imitators of FIFA football every year. Is that something you want? Really? Good. Then go and buy this game. You may like it, you may not, but go into things with an open mind. Completely wipe your memory of everything I've said today, and just experience it for yourself. I know it's hard not to be impressionable in this internet age, but just don't listen to the sheep. Go and try it for yourself, okay? I can't be a big enough advocate of going out and trying things for yourself. Don't just base your opinions on stuff you've read on Wikipedia. Don't base your opinions on 20 seconds of gameplay. Make your own mind up. Well, of course, you have to go and buy the game for that, but drop your preconceived notions of what a game is, and you'll definitely enjoy this game a lot more. Okay, you can trust me on this. I think. Sayonara, Yak Watchers.